Welcome, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to learn about permaculture, to see what's possible. I appreciate you all for being here. I've got my new IMO sweatshirt here. It was sent to me in the mail by someone who's been watching the series. It's awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Dijon. All right. So today, we're going to be talking about the permaculture mindset, and it is the third part in unlocking abundance with permaculture. So we're going to start. Rich, would you be able to let folks in? Thank you, Rich. All right, everyone, let's begin. And we're there. All right, thank you everyone for being here. I appreciate you taking the time. I'm Matt Powers. Let's begin. Today, I want to talk to you about unlocking abundance with the permaculture mindset. And I just wanted to let you know that so much is possible. So, starting out for me may have looked a lot like a lot of people's adventure in permaculture. They had a terrible situation they were in. For me, it was terrible soil. I was in Central Valley, it was terrible soil, and then it was incredibly hot. So obviously, bare soil or near bare soil like this, uh, in direct sunlight is going to compound the heat. That's what happened here, and it was ambient was 110, out, but where the soil was baking in the sun, the heat built higher, and this is common. I mean, you'll see John Kemp recently talking about soils hitting 140 as one of his benchmarks of measurement for stressors. And so this is like at that point of stress. And I did the classic PDC with Jeff Lawton online in 2014, over 10 years ago. And it totally allowed me to rethink my site, transform my site. A lot of these pictures that I'm about to show you are in that eight, see eight, that area right there. And it became absolutely incredible as I applied the actual hands on the ground permaculture. I'm talking about using hand tools. I'm talking about using just simple tools that allow you to find level, and whether it's a bunyip pipe or a hose, all these different things allow you to make level happen. I did it here with an A-frame, and it transformed. And many of you have seen these pictures. Many of you know this story. And this was Central Valley, California. And this is where it all started out for me. It was a transformation of soil. I went from this to that. And that was a theme you're going to see. I repeated this over and over again because that site, the Central Valley, California, that was my in-laws. And so we were living in a garage. And once we moved out of that garage, another family member moved in. And so we lost that spot when we moved. And so we never went back there, right? And we were always renting, and I was, doing work on the properties I was on and trade for like lower rent and all that kind of stuff. And so I repeated this over and over again wherever we went. And we had this goal to live where we vacationed in Sonoma County because that's where the heirloom expo was, where like all that stone fruit, if you follow, Burbank, Luther Burbank and all his work, which I did and studied at, his farms up there. I would go to Sebastopol and go to, Luther Burbank's farm and walk around and look at what plants are remaining and study it. And so we had this goal to move to this one area, but life had all these other plans. Um, I was actually the spokesperson for Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds for a time, and that means I was living in Missouri. And so we went from living in Glen Ellen in Sonoma County, moving to Missouri, and then we moved to help my mom pack up and close up her mom's house after she had moved out. And so we moved to Orange County, And in Orange County, I worked with Makeda down at the World Beach Center, and that's where I did all that work where I expanded it. So if you see where this is, you might remember this. That barrier I pushed every day a little bit, and I planted behind it and put trees behind it. And so I expanded all the way to the sidewalk. A little bit of guerrilla gardening there. And so I put down the things I knew would grow really well, throw sow, and they just grew and self-seeded and just filled up the space. And she was just blown away. And it created a green barrier in Balboa Park between the sidewalk and her site. And they were able to keep that barrier. And it's an incredible food forest that has developed. She had done so much work before I even showed up, but I was able to expand it. I was able to really push those things out, take those loquat, and all those kinds of. Uh, she had a nursery and all those seedlings and cuttings that she rooted. I was able to take those and plant them all out and expand that. So if you go there, you see this picture, you see that where it is now. I helped start that process. I didn't usher it all the way through. I literally did this work over the course of a summer, um, and then it I left, and we went to Washington, into outside Seattle in Issaquah, and that little house right there never was lived in again because it had a cracked foundation, and so we moved into this to like take the site, but we were also needing a place to go because my mom was selling that house, her parents' home, and so and it was like really good for us to be there to help my mom go through all the stuff. You know what I mean? It was really important, and it was also really sweet that my boys got to spend so much time with my mom, and they were a comfort to her in that hard time period. So it was really important, right? But it on paper it looks crazy. My travel resume, my moving resume is like every year or two you leave and go somewhere new. Right. And I grew up in the same house and have the same bed and lived in the same attic my whole life, right? Until I left home. It's 100% true. I had the same exact bed, and so like by the time I was 18, I couldn't even fit in my own bed. So, like we sleep diagonal, right? So I was very used to like the sameness of life. And my wife's a traveler. She wants to travel. She wants new things. She, loves that. She thrives on that. She wants to travel at any moment and be spontaneous. And I'm the opposite. I'm the homebody. I'm the one who wants to like hunker down and write a book, And so we're in Issaquah, Washington now, and this is the area where we lost power and couldn't get off the mountain for 9 days in the middle of winter, and we had no water because all the pipes froze. The power was out. I had to use permaculture to deal with this. I used EM so that it would control the stink and the smell of the bucket toilet that we had to use. It was intense. So yeah, yeah. This is where that was. This is the house. It was never lived in again. And we totally appreciate the people that made this whole site possible. We got to meet Eric and Amanda, who people who live in the bus, and we're still good friends with them. They've got one of our dogs, one of our son's dogs, and so uh, our oldest dog is 14 now, and this other dog became like they would fight constantly. And so once the other dog got out of the puppy stage, and so they adopted that other dog. And so this is the site where, if you recently saw the Keyline design video I put out, this is a very simple, introduction to like how things can be laid out. And I use this site as an example, and then I made it real. So I have spillways on both sides of it looks like a swale. It looks straight. It looks flat. And it was when I built it with all those people, but then I canted it so that it would have a slight grade from the center down so that it's Seattle. You know the stories, right? But right, there's a reason why there's a blackberry patch in the background creeping trying to get me, right? It's because this is so rainy and that soil is good at draining, but also if it ever got to the point where it was like flooding or overwhelming, it would push my topsoil right off the mountain. So I did a lot of spillways, and they're on both sides of both rows. And from the center point, they're about zero point 0.5 to 1% grade to either side down. And so that allowed for that moisture to just gently, without eroding, move away. Go, gently take your time but don't overwhelm me, And so it did have infiltration, but it didn't overwhelm the system. And that's why I showed, this video because it's so simple. But using this geometry, there's more to it. So if this was a commercial site and we 100x this would be your return on investment, right? This would be the way that you calculated and decided whether to invest in a site, whether to buy it. And then you'd also do things like calculate, you know, the actual width of the machines you're going to use, and then the turning radius of that, and then calculate that into the sides so that machines can actually turn around and go down the next row. This is like a big deal because people put in hard infrastructure, irrigation, fencing, those tension wires for the vineyard, what have you, and then they don't have a way to turn around. And they did it up to the edge of their property. So now the only way to turn around is to get like an easement on the neighbors, and that's never going to happen. So commercially, this is incredibly important. I had someone recently comment on YouTube being like, down here in Ecuador, man, we do everything by hand, and we don't need any of these calculations. I just use a hose, and if I need it to drain more water, I just dig. Make it slightly like slanted. Swales aren't on contour down here. And it's like actually the term swale is on contour. It's flat. But that's why it's so important to have that keyline design. And so there's a lot of confusions around this. And the thing is, it stacks. It's not just this. It's not just a small scale, simple thing. It's all the calculations, all the geometry. And Darren Doherty, is the carrying the torch for the entire PA Yeoman's keyline design world. And he combined it with permaculture early on. He's been working on the Agrarian's Handbook, his book, for over 10 years. The first, I believe, 5 or 6 chapters, or maybe more, are digitally available, but it'll be eventually be available through Chelsea Green. It'll be a black book with gold writing on it. It'll be gorgeous. He insists it has to be black. That's like a thing. So I love it. I'm excited for him. I hope it comes out eventually, but everyone's been waiting years and years and years and years. Meanwhile, he's planting 8 million trees, and making new equipment and machines to automate that. And so that it's inoculating, doing keyline patterning, and like you can control these things with machines and remotely. So you, so he's scaling up so that all these things can be possible at any level and any scale, and remediation can happen extraordinarily quick. So it matters when you're doing 8 million trees. It matters when you're doing things commercially. And that's why, I model it out on the small scale that I can. I can't, I don't have most of the people with like 1,000 acres or I don't know, 200,000 acres inherited that, right? And so majority, unless they're Bill Gates and buying up everything. But so I can model it on my small scale, and I can showcase it in the people who are doing it right at the large scale. And Darren Doherty's been hired by a lot of those people to do it right. Now, I have been tasked at times to do large scale. So this is 90 acres, and this is Sonoma County. This is where we moved after we got an offer. The house was breaking down. My wife had a breakdown. This was after the whole cancer issue that Unstoppable Enthusiasm, the book, is all about. I don't have a cup. I do. This book, the opening is about that whole time period in Issaquah and what we had to do. And my wife is the editor on this. So this is a project we really did together, which is very special. I gave a bunch of those out at Our Future. So if you missed that, that was free. The digital at least was free. And I'm going to eventually do the audiobook and put that on Audible. But first, I'm doing a bunch of things I'll talk about in a minute. But Sonoma County, this is 90 acres. There was so much fire here. You notice there's fire breaks in this very strategically. That was the majority of the issue, is that they needed to create water infiltration and they needed to clear the land so that it was even accessible. There was Scotch broom that was 10 feet tall, 12 feet tall with interlaced or on top, yeah, growing on top, using it as a new floor was poison ivy. So you'd be cutting things and then poison ivy would like fall on you and you're like, no. And so I'm a person like my mom that gets poison ivy and then it gets into my blood and starts popping up everywhere all over my body. And then I can it seriously affects me, dangerously so. So it was one of those situations. And so you can see what happened here. Um, yeah, I was like, the videos? No, that, right, here you go. So you can see that it was thick wood and there was trash and pipes of all sorts. There's a metal pipe there. There's PVC piping. There's all this garbage mixed in. There was an illegal cannabis operation on this site, and they had just dumped nutrients and soil and had created this crazy bloom of invasives around all of their areas. Yeah, you see how tall that is? I'm 6 feet tall. Right. So I'm cutting this all down by hand. And so this is what it's like now. And so it turned back into grasslands and we started to have grazers and it just became beautiful. And there was all these other species, there was soil development, the soil came back to life. And this is also where I did that work with the final time that I did all that deep work with the Peruvian corn when I grew it out and gave it out and I had enough to share with everyone. And that's where, Sean Powers, who we're gonna hear from later, started growing this corn and it has amazing success every year with it since then. So it's been years. So he has tons of these seeds. He has tons of these genetics. They're growing in Sonoma County still. And he has it combined with painted mountain corn, just like I did in some iterations. And it looks so cool. So huge success. And part of the reason why I gave him so many seeds and helped him was the reason this area didn't die when we got evacuated and we were away. He snuck in and watered those plants to keep them alive. So there's fires raging. There's all these things. Areas are evacuated. He was sneaking in and watering this corn to keep it alive. So yeah, Sean's an amazing guy. We're not related or anything, but he's my brother anyway, right? I love it. Then we moved to Texas because we got burned out of there, right? And so the fires evacuated us, and we had so many people who were in our community who lost their homes. We thought we were going to lose everything. We left the site. He watered those plants and kept them alive. They had shut off the water deliveries there. We had run out of water on the site. It was terrible. It was a very difficult situation. They needed to do so much more catchment of water to recharge their aquifer and wells, but it's also the geology of that area is such that it's very gravelly, it's very porous, and so it dries out and dries out deep. So it was a difficult situation, and we left. And so we realized that the county and California wasn't going to do anything substantive to stop the fires. And then the way they were treating people when they wanted to access the areas where their stuff was, well, you know what I mean? And it just became a predecessor, and well, no, it paired with the whole lockdowns in such a way that we were just like, we got to get out of here. And we went to Texas. And this was San Marcos. This isn't the first place we went. The first place we went for a minute there was a terrible circumstance. And I'm not going to get into that now. But we ended up here in this Texas suburb. A student connected us and helped us get. It was a friend of a student who got us this site, and so we put in all this work. James, of course, my workhorse. He and I always work together on things, and we put in a swale, and it grew so well. And look in the background, see all those rocks? Uh-huh. Spillway. So spillways are beautiful, functional, and very important. And yeah, it was like really successful. We had really healthy plants. And so over time, I kept getting better and better and getting what I wanted more and more. And then we moved to a large site. We got an offer for a larger site with, multiple buildings near Austin, and and it was it was just too good to say no to. And so I drew up these plans. We have done, we haven't done the right side. So if you take down like the buildings, from the buildings to the left, we've basically done, except for like the water delivery system. We haven't built up enough water for that to be needful or the thing to do, and we've added to it. So that's really kind of done, except for the fact that the garden food forest, the bottom part of it, because just in terms of water, we need to focus on the first top two-thirds, and yeah, it's huge. So it's hard to manage by hand. And then so everything on the right hand is potential future for the site if they want to invest in that. And so again, creating plans, I'm showcasing what's possible, and then I'm installing, right? And and so I've got compost areas, I've got the food forest, I've got partial annual garden, everything above that dotted white line actually. And then this is what it looks like. So that from that pile of compost up on up, and maybe there'll be a perspective video or image here that shows like it's huge. It's about 2 acres, and so there's a trees in there, and then I'm putting asparagus in there. So there's trees with a line of asparagus that really creates the boundary. See the asparagus in the behind the asparagus there? Yeah, it's a row. And so I have asparagus rows on the outside of each of my perennial lanes. So I have perennial lanes, annual lanes, or perennial lanes and then perennial like cover crop lanes, right? And I do that so that I'm returning fertility, so that I'm doing agroforestry, mimicking silvopasture, those kinds of things. You can see the dichondra, the micro clover in the forefront, in the rows I planted it in for the middle of the pathway, and then beans. And you can also see how sandy it is. It's just pure sand. It really is wild. And you can see those trees. You can see all of these different things. You can see the clover in front, the micro clover behind it, and this is probably half to maybe less than half of the space. And you can really see the sand here, but you can also see how we're making it more fungal. There's transitions, and look where the fungal activity is, hugging the plant, right? This is all good. We're having succession happen. It's having fast. We did add biochar. There was a huge amount of trees that were in a giant pile, and we had to deal with them. So they were all intertangled and everything, and so we just did a conservation burn and then captured it before it turned into ash and made our homegrown biochar. I did a lot of EM on that, and I constantly am doing EM. I brew it now in 55-gallon barrels. And I also did in this site initially rock dust 10 pounds in that 2 acres. Actually, when we initially did it, I did it all the way down. So it was more like 3 acres. So, we did about 3 acres, about 10 pounds. And then we did kelp meal for half of it. So that's 1.5 acres, got 50 pounds of kelp meal put in. It's actually, pretty spread out, but that became a food source, a nutrient source, a mineral source that took longer to break down. And then we had a 50 gallon barrel of liquid kelp, and I mixed that as a amendment into my EM with the foliar sprays for over 2 years, right? And so I'm metering it out bit by bit across those 2 acres, and then fish emulsion 5 gallons over the first year. I did it because the number one limiting factor for soil in Central Texas, especially not up in the limestone area, specifically, I'm talking about down in the sandy area. It's probably the case up in the limestone area, but I need to see more soil testing from that area I don't have any on hand, and I haven't been given any. So I can assume, but I know for a fact down here in the sandy areas, the issue, the limiting number one limiting factor is nitrogen. So fish emulsion, I use that to like really like get things to like do well, initially. And by the second year, I was seeing such change that I didn't use anything like that. So if we just look here, this is the beginning really of the second year. This is about a year ago. We're beginning our third season here. And it's also steamy, hot Texas steamy. So you can really see aggregation there. You can really see how much organic matter there is, right? And some of this is from that compost that I spread out. Some of this is from the exudates from the plants, and some of it's from the microbes and the microbe die-off, the necromass. And you can really just see how beautiful the soil can be, but it's also like I don't know if you can't, but maybe some of you definitely can see that this is sand with organic matter mixed in, and it's like it is sand. And under the microscope, that's what we see. And when we shake it up in a test tube, you know, that this is beautiful, beautiful Johnson Soup compost, and it is all brown. There's no white flecks. There's no sand. But if we did that with that, it would be like organic matter and then sand. So just saying. And we this is that first year. And obviously the reason that I'm letting these things grow because the first year that you even though the 3-year-old crowns and they make beautiful asparagus, that first year you really got to let them frond out, and or first season depending on where you live. Uh, where most of the asparagus grown in America and Mexico, they're going to let it go for a season, so a growth cycle. Let it frond out, let it go to seed, and then chop it. And then the next one is the next one. It's the next year to them. So that's a little bit of what I have going on here too. So I let them grow out here, and we had some great successes. But it was very specific. I mean, look at the soil. I am on beach sand. Okay. Beach sand. And so I did daikon radish. I did turnips. I did all these cover crops. They did really, really well. And and yeah, I mean, I prepared the soil, I fed the soil, I added the biology, I added the right cover crops, and then I let them go to town. You know what I mean? And that's what happened. So this is like my first viral video. This is an image from that video I did on cover crops, and you can actually see in the background the trees in the food forest. So this was like an incredible turning point in the process of that site. It was really, the seeing that turnaround. And and this is the first year we got some good things, but look at the next year. I was able to double the soil organic matter in one season. And so I saw a complete difference. It's like, oh, I've got the same number. Well, not I have a lot more squash, right? The second year, but squash per squash. In comparison, it just wasn't even like it's like two or three of those, you know. So I was getting great reactions, and then also the second years, I put in the green wall. It's so windy here, and I had a lot of tree flagging. I had a lot of trees that were being blown over, and I was like, you know, the real way to deal with this is to apply permaculture thinking and put in more edge effect, right? I need a windbreak. Windbreak is also another thing, pushing the air up. So the green wall was a huge success this year. I did learn some things. Look in the background there. You'll see that's hog panel. Look in the foreground. That's a different kind of fencing. That's just fencing. The back is hog panel. The hog panel got too hot in Texas summers so that the plants were hesitant to grow on it because it was so hot. The ones in the front that just fence, it couldn't hold heat enough for it to be a bother for the plants. The plants overtook this much faster. But in comparison, the hog panel in the back held heat longer, so it grew tomatoes up until Christmas. So because it retained the heat from the sun overnight and just right, and so the front didn't. So it's a trade-off. But permacultural observation shows us the behavior of these things and how to apply them and their advantages and disadvantages as we do permaculture analysis, right? So it was great. And cowpeas, noodle beans, overgrown trees. It was fun. And then I grew. I was able to start harvesting the asparagus. And you can see the just great diversity. We've got thicker ones, thinner ones. I've got purple ones. And it was just so prolific. It was just lots of cowpeas and tons of melons. This year was tons of melons. Remember, it was last year that I did like all the nitrogen, with the fish emulsion, right? That was the only form of nitrogen other than microbes that I brought in. And so I did that this year. I did have kelp and EM, but only for the first half. What did I have kelp? I've just been doing EM since then. So, so we just unbelievable food, unbelievable expression, color, and thickness. The thick fleshiness of this was so heavy, and it was just prolific. And we also had rain. So we have to recognize that it was the hottest summer on record the summer before, and then this summer we had rains off and on throughout. So that's why they're splitting on those melons because couldn't turn off the water. It was raining and it was, standing water and puddling at times. So it was very different. It was the humid tropical summers that happen here in Central Texas that we get sometimes. So it was all in full effect. It was a ton of fun. I got more melons and the best melons, the sweetest melons I've ever gotten. And that bottom one where you see that strange growth out of it, that's a watermelon, but that is the cave, Art Combe watermelon that they discovered. The seeds were discovered in a cave and they're Native American. And just like we have crookneck squash, there was crookneck watermelon. And so it's a recessive gene. So you'll grow these and you won't have all of them have this, but some of them will, and some will have it more pronounced than others. So I'm growing them, I'm adapting them. I've got a bunch of seed, and so next year I'm going to be this year I should say, because that's the next year. We're going to be growing these in strength, and it should be noted that this is in I believe December. No, this is November, the end of November that I harvested these. This the red watermelons didn't survive this long. Those are yellow water. Well, the classic red. Those are yellow watermelons. Actually, no, they're the orange. They're the orange mellow glow watermelons. And then the bottom one's the red um, uh, art comb, crookneck watermelon. So they're very heirloom. They're like super heirlooms, right? Someone had looked at the skin flash of the upper ones and thought they were the yellow ones. And that's what I was thinking of for a second there. So heirloom seeds is what I was all into, right? And it still is. All right, and then I made a chicken tractor for this site. I need to redesign this area and fencing in order to do a new batch of chickens. We had really large wild dogs. It's Texas. That killed our flock one day, and there were like a lot of these instances, and dogs were getting hurt, and so my wife didn't want to let the dog out because these wild dogs are huge. They're bigger than our dogs. So anyway, we lost a flock of chickens. With this system, they were out, and we had porous fencing. I need to have like super strong fencing and not fencing like anyway. But they were free ranging. Our dogs were watching them off and on. We were watching them when we were watching them because we were training James's dogs on not eating them. Um, they didn't eat any of them, but they tried. They would like chase them and be like training them. And Shadow, the one who used to watch our dogs, is 14 now, and so we're not gonna like have him battle a wild dog at 14. And then the other dogs, you know what I mean? They're scaredy cats. They're traumatized. So we need to get a livestock guardian dog or better fencing. So I need to do that. But this was incredibly powerful. I transformed this old beat up trailer, work trailer, into a Joel Salatin designed, really, really nice chicken tractor. And it's gonna last forever. The thing's a tank, and you're like, it's so tall, Matt. It's actually really really useful because and this is in my book. If you're here, so you downloaded the book. I hope the ebook. You'll find this design in there where it wicks the air from below and out through the sides just by the heat. So the hotter it gets, the harder it pulls. So as the frame heats up, it begins pulling, and it actually, the chickens would be in there in the middle of the day when it's 112 out, and it wouldn't be hot like cooking. They're not dying. They're not freaking out. It's actually shady and cool, and not cool like, I mean, it's hot, but it's not hotter than, and it's a little bit cooler than the ambient temperature because of this pulling of air and the air movement. So it's a fantastic design. Pretty shocking how well. And then I could move it around, and as you can see, we live on 24 acres, and it's open grazing. We're not doing the grazing operation. We wish it was holistic and regenerative and all that, but there are no sprays. So we're happy about that, right? Got to take what we can get. And you can see that edge. That edge has every wild animal ever in it, and they are not intimidated by anything. So like the wild dog that was like like half a foot taller than, and so that correlates to the whole body size, right? Than our dog, uh, just like looked at her and then grabbed another chicken and then looked at her again, just like deadpan. My wife was like, okay, okay, I'm not gonna let the dogs mess with that thing, And I wasn't home, so uh, but I'd seen that guy before, and he just unfazed. You'll yell at them, and they're just unfazed. It's wild. And so it is pretty wild here. I mean, it's Texas. There's zebra running around and exotic animals that don't belong here. And so water, that's the other thing. The well went dry that first year, right when that drought was happening, and right when they banned watering. So they banned watering in Bastrop County in the middle of that drought. So this is a primary focus in permaculture, slowing, sinking, and spreading and saving water into the landscape primarily. And so we put in some ponds in a chain. So one pond overflows into the next pond, which overflows into a giant swale, which overflows to right where my food forest begins. So this is all planned out, but it's also driving the water into the ground and over towards where my well is, right? I'm recharging the well. So, um, so there's 4.5 days of work. I'm gonna skip around a little bit. So that's where the garden is over there. Um, so this is a catchment area below the main swale, and this is less than an hour of rain. A few days after we finish doing the work. So this is the swale right here. So that's that swale that's below it. And then this is the bottom pond. This is all just less than an hour of rain. And so that's a spillway from one pond to the other. Yeah. So it was incredible to see it so full just within the first week of finishing it. And none of it's sealed. Yes, that is. But yes, that is clay. So it's holding water. And it can hold water, but I didn't seal it. I didn't do any of those things because I wanted to back up into the landscape because I wanted to recharge my well. So a lot of people don't realize that there's philosophies around which dam type you're doing, why, and your objectives overall. There's a lot of people who are just doing rubber liners and not thinking about the consequences to the environment, and also how you're just holding a rubber cup of water on top of your soil, and then everything else dries around it, cooking that cup. So releasing whatever in the plasticizers and whatever rubberizer you have in there that's making it pliable into your water. So so that this is something that we do everywhere we go. We focus on water harvesting. So I also applied permaculture outside of the garden, outside of the site. And that's really what I wanted to talk to you today for the second half. But before I go any further, who am I? Well, I'm Matt Powers. I used to be a musician. My wife and I, we met while I was a musician, and what happened was she got thyroid cancer. So she lost her thyroid when we were very young, and she lives on those pills, those thyroid pills. Without it, she'd die. So we've had this very harsh reality as a backdrop on everything, and then she kept getting cancer like repeatedly, and so she's had cancer over 7 times. So my kids have grown up with this idea that you know their mom is being chased by cancer. You know what I mean? And it's just been something that's part of our fight and part of who we are. And I became a teacher to get health care because the music industry isn't going to provide that, and the instability of the music industry wasn't getting us out of the garage. Funny thing was, neither was teaching eventually too. But I got that health care, even though at first it was free and then became $700 a month. California. And so I became a school teacher. I got my master's degree in education, and we raised our boys in the garden and in food forests and in permaculture because that was how I was able to grow the food my family needed and the quality of food that could actually be nourishing and healing. And so I loved permaculture. I did permaculture. I started creating permaculture curriculum, and that started the process of turning me into an author, combining my education, my master's degree, all these things with permaculture. And I started doing things for the community in permaculture that hadn't been done before. And in that process of service, I became a online educator, an entrepreneur, a soil expert, a seed farmer. I mean, event and started providing seed for Baker Creek heirloom seeds. If you guys ever bought Hazantle or the red Aztec spinach, that was mine. And then I became a family guy, through meeting my wife, and this is my story. And it always links back to these aspects of myself, the aspects of my roles, the aspects of my service, and I want my kids to have a good future. And I became a citizen scientist in order to understand these things and do these things at the right level. And it's only going to get wilder as we go deeper into the citizen scientist side of things. So it was all to create a bridge to the regenerative future because a regenerative economy relies upon regenerative marketable skills and understanding in your workforce, which means that you need that in your education system. So I created the first standard-based things that allowed permaculture to enter into these spaces and be professional and commercial the educational arc that I'm talking about. Obviously, like Darren Doherty, all these pioneers have been actually doing it, proving out the commercial side so that I can source that material and reference it in that curriculum, right? Okay, so you're like, but how did you apply this outside the garden sitemap? You just like dropped off there. What was that? Well, okay, so I did this as my strategy, and it's permaculture, and I'll tell you why. So I focused on first of its kind. Everything I did was focusing on first of its kind. So whatever it was, fill in the blank. This was the first K through 12 book for middle schoolers on permaculture, and it could be used in high school, but I designed it so that it could be used as low as middle school, right? And it was used in high school and then used by adults, and I was actually shocked. But I didn't know what my skill was then. I didn't know that my skill set is to take complicated things and make them so simple that it allows people to understand them at a greater depth. Even adults, even people working with these things for years. The ability to explain the things to children and the ability to break it down into visuals that children could understand is also what creates unifying and cohesion in the understanding of adults. So I didn't know that, but so I was really shocked when this took off, and it did. It went all over the world. Adults were using it, they were translating it, everyone's finding it so powerfully useful. And so I just felt absolutely, blessed. And I created well, okay. What happened was I tried to create a physical school and it failed. And then in the failure of it, I decided to do an online course and had this huge, overwhelming response. All these adults took it. There were some families, mostly adults took it. I didn't understand, but I understand now. It's that ability to sum things up, that ability to make it so simple that a child can understand it, makes it so that other people can teach it to children, makes it so that they understand at a depth of cohesion that it makes it so it enters their critical thinking. It enters their novel and improvisational thinking. And again, this dovetails with my master's degree education, which is my master's degree education was on best practices. What that means is it's research best practices pairing with developmental and educational psychology. So this is where all this comes from. And so this book was another first of its kind. It was the first peer-reviewed permaculture textbook that was cited. And obviously, the 1989 Bill Mollison book was cited, wasn't peer-reviewed. But this I allowed my with this would allow the community to give feedback and build something that was commercially viable, was all these different things. We have all this new information. I mean, it was 30 years since Bill had written that book, so there's a lot more information, a lot more case studies, a lot more exciting things to talk about. So, and there was also not just new people on the scene, there was new science. And I applied permaculture to the ocean, to the coast, to the riparian, to the rivers, to the streams. So that's all. And again, I'm sourcing pioneers like Bill Zedek, Rosenthal, all these different people that are doing the work, proving it out, showcasing it at a commercial level or a professional level. And I started gathering people together to make a new form of PDC. So this book was the first of its kind because it was also standard based. I made this so that you could teach that at any high school as a science elective. And it eventually became accredited in British Columbia, so that even today, students in British Columbia can take this as an elective for science, and they actually get triple science elective credit because it's such a big course. So it's a 400 plus page book, 20 weeks, and so they get triple science credit. They can take their whole high school, all of their electives, the 3 years of electives, right there. Boom. Because they have core classes, and then you usually have 2 or 3 years of science electives, right? So I created an online course where I had over 70 educators, first time that's ever happened, and it was pairing with those two books, so that it was not just the first of its kind in all that regard. I decided to do advanced PDC, so a permaculture design course that's 72 hours. It's got the Bill Mollison standardized curriculum. Jeff Lawton's teaching that. It's beautiful. It's where everyone started out. The problem is my education as an educator tells me that rewarding someone for creating a map of something that's actually physical and actually requires you to actually make it is not the time to reward them. That's the time to give them a progressive grade and assessment, but not the time to actually reward and honor them. You you can give praise, of course, but it's actually not the time to like give them a grade, a summative grade, like you're certified. No, but I honor the PDC and I do give that PDC for the actual design because that's what Penny Livingston asked me. She asked me not to kill the PDC years ago. And so what I did was I created the advanced PDC, which is honoring people, giving them a certification, in other words, for making it real. So you drew the picture, you created the map, and now you made it real. Now that's what actually matters. I care about you actually living this. And also I made it lifetime community. So Jeff Lawton, his program was 12 months. You get kicked out after a year. Elaine Ingham's the same thing. You pay money to stay in. And so I was like, no, I want to build community. I want them to showcase to the other people what's possible. I want them to be honored. And I don't care if it takes 2 years. In fact, if it takes them 2 years and they get their certification for something that took them 2 years, they will value that certification much more. And so I was like, ooh, I need to do it this way. And it took years to develop this and build it out right. And it's at over 1,200 students. It's been a massive success. What really happened and what you can see from this whole patterning, I'm finally warming up. I know. You're like, Matt, you're wearing a sweatshirt underneath your sweatshirt. How cold is it in there? It's pretty cold. A little cold. Remember, it got down to the 20s for many days here in Texas. So, freeze. Our heaters are freezing over. So, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the story of that is we moved so many times. So my kids have lived all over the place. My kids have grown up like my wife grew up. She moved 23 times before she was 12. She's a, Air Force brat. I did not grow up that way. I want to be stationary. I want to hold still. I'm a homebody. So we moved so many times. Wasn't the plan, but we did. And so what does that mean? I had to build soil from scratch every single time. So I had to get faster and better at it to like compensate for this. I'm teaching people permaculture and then I'm not being able to go to the third and fourth year on a site like I did with my original site where I was there developing for, 8 to 10 years. I can't, I could run the math, but I believe it's 8 years that we had that site going. And it just was pumping, beautiful, rocking. But I had to like fix this site and get it up and use it as an example for like the next class and course. And so I got faster and better at it because I had to. And then I started having profound realizations. It's like the better and faster I got at this, the easier it was to do everything in permaculture. And I was like, you know, soil is the little pin on the spoke that keeps the wheel on things and allows things to move forward, right? It's the linchpin on everything in permaculture. You don't have soil, you can't grow anything properly. And people are like hydroponics. Yeah, petrochemicals, right? No, thank you. Um, we need soil. We need photosynthesis. We need the sun. Can't be just running things off of fake lights, doing all this kind of stuff. And so I realized soil was the foundation for everything. And it became my main focus literally by default. Because everywhere I go, I had to build the soil. Build the soil. Got to keep going. And what does that mean? I'm building compost. I'm working with microbes. I'm delving deeper and deeper and deeper, niching down. And so that's why I created Regenerative Soil. And that's my 23rd book, my first bestseller. And look, doesn't this look like the permaculture ethics thing? Yeah. Yeah. Guiding principles. First principles. Asking how did nature do this in the first place? How does it How did it happen? How did soil arrive here? How does soil rebuild itself? How does soil maintain itself? And going and building from there tells us what is regenerative because soil accumulated over time through regenerative means. And it was only through the regenerative pathways in nature that we arrived at having forests and old growth forests and, coral reefs and all the fertility arrived through regeneration. So people were doubling their harvest with just the book because they were applying permaculture in a very, very precise, specific way. They doubled their harvests. And this is a university. This is the USU Permaculture Garden in Utah. So they were already applying everything in that purple book that was Elaine Ingham's. So Elaine Ingham like made the longest chapter of that purple book possible. She delved so deep. And this is also, anyway, I'll get into it in a second. So David Holmgren, the co-creator, co-originator of the concept of permaculture, this is the book he uses. So it's a huge full circle moment for me to have my mentor, the people who inspired me, now recommending me, and the people that I reference and honor in the book, like Chris Trump for all his work. He's referencing and turning back and pointing folks to check out what I'm doing, and people who are teaching at universities, like Dr. James Francis White. This is a person with over 625 published studies, just so highly cited, uh, recommending this book for their students. And then I turned it into an online course because that's what I do. I pair books with online courses. It's kind of easy, the course kind of writes itself that way. You just follow chapter by chapter. It's very simple, but people love that because they read the chapter and then we do it with the video and we go deeper and then we answer questions and it hits all the modalities because I also have audiobooks. So we reach people in a differentiated way. And this was my 24th book. And it was my seventh Kickstarter. And this absolutely changed everything. This is the first soil microscopy book that actually had soil images. I've got soil microscopy books and they talk about the microscope and they don't have anything about the soil. And you're like, what is this? And so I created this and that's why it was so successful. Because I again created the first of a kind in a deeper, deeper niche. But I focused on it being in alignment with the leverage point of permaculture, the leverage point of all of our regenerative systems, soil. And the course that goes along with it, Zach Weiss, Sepp Holzer trained Zach Weiss. He's taken, Elaine Ingham's courses too. He says what he provides in this course to better understand this world of soil microscopy is unrivaled. So it's excellent to get his feedback. Yeah, he works directly with Raleigh Latham, the person who filmed all of Elaine Ingham's courses, not just this course iteration, but the prior course iteration. So just wonderful people. And it's just such an honor that all these folks that I've worked with, all these folks that Zach Weiss has talked about in my course, talked about in my book as a leader. He's doing incredible things with water, incredible things with earthworks and dams, restoration of wild spaces, commercial spaces, unbelievable work. Teaching now people how to do heavy machinery to do earthworks in his program of certification. And then my original PDC teacher recommends regenerative soil microscopy. And by following the patterns of permaculture, I have been able to circle back and serve the community such that my mentors and teachers are using my resources and finding them to expand their understanding. And that's really how much room there is in permaculture and how much area there is for growth in this world. This is such an incredible review, too. And then Jeff Lowenfels, if you guys like teaming with microbes, teaming with fungi, teaming with nutrients, this is probably the best review I'll ever get. With my books, you can read about the microbes. With this book, so you can see the microbes. If you team with microbes, you're going to love Matt Powers' Regenerative Soil Microscopy. So this is such a good review. Oh my gosh, Jeff is such a wonderful man. He is the reason I did a trilogy. He is one of my main, I mean, he has been a main reference point in my books and someone I've quoted in my books like the whole time. So it just was wild to have him and also James White continuously saying that, these books are exceptional quality and it's been a game changer. It's been an absolute game changer for so many people because they now can do testing that connects their understanding. Before, all the soil testing that they were doing, all the microscopy testing that they were doing was creating more confusion because it was an abstraction based upon numbers that were always going to be misleading. So I've been able to elucidate and get in there and debunk and demystify and create all new protocols. And because of that, I'm going to be releasing a database. And currently it's in process. So this database is again going to be the first of its kind. There's no database out there that shows before, during, and after with soil. So before snapshot and holistically. So the minerals, the biology, salinity, DNA, all of that, right? And then the actions, all on a timeline for each area. So then the actions are like what you added, the the compost test for what you added in compost, EM, the EM test on what you added, so that we actually can see the test results from those things. And so we can see before and after the actions you took, but also the quality and what they were that you added, because everyone's going to have a little bit different EM. Everyone's going to have a little bit different biofertilizer. Everyone's going to have different compost. Having that in alignment, and then the methods and the dates and then the results, so that a corn farmer can look up other corn farmers in the area and then see that, oh, this person adding EM has got rid of 50% of their nitrogen inputs. They're saving so much money and they're getting equal or better yield. And so opens a whole new door, and then suddenly that goes viral because they actually can get the feedback loop of transparency to actually cycle things, cycle wisdom, and just common sense develops from this. It becomes common. This sensing is quorum sensing at the community level that I see in the soil, in healthy soil, and we need in our communities, and is a symptom of a healthy community. The fact that a farmer can't see the other farmer's test and know what works and doesn't work and why is a huge problem. So this is a first of its kind. It's going to change farming, gardening, soil science forever because it's never been done before. So how is this all permaculture, Matt? We're talking crazy soil stuff. Well, I want to tell you about the blue ocean strategy. Blue ocean strategy is when you create something where you have no competitors. You're out in the middle of the open ocean. Lots of possibility, no competition. First of its kind. Red ocean strategy is stiff competition. That's you creating something that other people have already created, something that is not a differentiator in the market. It's just the same old thing, and you're just trying to lower your price to compete. And that's difficult. That's a race to the bottom kind of thing. And that ends up being lowering of quality, often loosening of ethics, and all these terrible things. I like it the opposite. I saw the open niche and the pattern in the ecosystem. Yeah, I saw it from the permaculture perspective. I was like, okay, this is the ecosystem of what's being provided. What's missing? What is the most unifying and cohesion creating, community building solution I can come up with? And, you know, in this instance, it would be fungi, right? Or endophytic, right? And I just want to tell you that you can too. You can find those open niches. You can find those areas to connect people, to be the trailblazer, to be the linchpin, and to be the exemplar. It's simply applied permaculture thinking. That's all I've done. And I see so many jobs. That's why I wrote the Regenerative Career Guide years ago. Elaine Ingham wrote a page in that. Joel Salatin wrote a page in that. Darren Doherty wrote a page in that. Peter McCoy wrote a page in that. Sean Sean Sherman, the sous chef, wrote a page in that. Antoinette Marquez, the seaweed farmer, and the beauty expert, the microalgae, all just unbelievable Amacy beauty products, all of that's just permaculture being applied. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you get this lens in you and you go through the process of learning and applying and seeing and then creating, it's indelible. It's a mindset. So there is so much room in the regenerative economy. For every degenerative job, there's a regenerative equivalent. And the thing is, the science is on our side. Regenerative means that it comes back next year. It heals faster. It accumulates every year and grows like an investment, like interest on an investment. The only way soil is here today is through regenerative means. It needs to build with time. It needs to come back next spring and grow again. It's not just perennials. Annual seeds come back too, right? So biennials come back, like right. The whole forest comes back after that winter. It regenerates. So the regenerative economy has just so much room. And in fact, because it's a local, bioregional based system, regenerative economy, and this doesn't discount, trade, doesn't discount things get being able to serve larger groups, but it does tie you to the local food production, fiber production, dairy, meat in a way that creates stability, resilience, and honors the community. It shows kids pride in their local community, connects the hearts and the minds of everybody in your bioregion in such a way that they value their community so that they protect their environment. It's all part of, it's all, they all go together. So when we bring these things back, we're going to bring back community. We're going to bring back jobs for our kids, startups for our kids, and ethical, integrity-based, meaningful expressions of work and service that are so critical for being human, for being part of a meaningful and powerful and caring community. So you are invited. I want to invite you guys to a very special final season. And it'll be lifetime access. You'll always have the materials. You'll always have access to all 8 seasons of live Q&A. But this is the final live season where I'm going through week by week doing live Q&A. The 8 years of Q&A is a lot of Q&A to go through. If you want to go through that, you can go through that. But you don't have to. You just ask me your questions in this final season. But it starts Monday. So it's over 70 teachers. It's for gardeners and ranchers and farmers and homesteaders and seed savers and mushroom cultivators, designers, consultants, teachers, especially teachers because so many of my students go on to teach, go on to work at a community level and a commercial level. So it's for all climates and all contexts. Students have expressed that they believe it's the best permaculture course. They've expressed that they realized it would change their lives when they got into those first videos. They realized they knew, and they Beth Healy. If you know Beth Healy, she's Dirt Mom. Okay, go look up Dirt Mom. All right, and see the amazing work with children this amazing woman has done. And it's been since she's been my student and since she's taken the Regenerative Entrepreneur Experts courses. It's wild. So, she did the work, right? But I am just honored that I could be a facilitator in the early part that helped her get started. And then Mike Garcia takes everyone's courses, and checks them out. He feels also it's the best course he's ever taken. And the way I go down to the soil level and back with a PDC, that's, for a lot of people, that's the way they actually can really understand things. They've taken a PDC, but the advanced PDC, the way I teach, the way I tie it together, the way I go through the psychology of things, it touches people in a completely different way, especially people who are teachers, especially the people who are parents, especially people who are professionals and commercial growers. This hits them differently than all the other PDCs they've ever taken because of the work I did beforehand. That book, 400 plus pages, took 2.5 years to write, 24 different peer reviewers from all walks of life, all different scientists and doctors, PhDs. And then it's all cited to, right? So it's a completely different experience for so many people who have taken it. And it's community based. We've got we've got a private network, a private social network. It's like Facebook without all the crazy advertisements, and it doesn't have excitotoxins for the eyes, essentially. And it's very normal, very not sensational, and it's intriguing, and there's good conversations, and people are polite and warm. It's amazing. And it's over 200 hours of content. Remember, you got those going to be 8 years now of live Q&A. You don't have to watch all that. There's also bonus material, bonus courses. So you don't have to, there's not all that required, you know what I mean? But it's there. It's there. So you can go deeper into different areas. And it's that permaculture design certification, right? Design based. And then it's the advanced permaculture design certification, which is project based. So it's going to be your project. It's going to be something that you actually create. So the benefits of the Advanced Permaculture Student Online are you grow an abundance of food, you save an abundance of seed, because that was my focus, right? You design a permaculture site, you install a permaculture site, right? Past and future, right? So people in the past and all the PDCs, they're all about designing. This course is special. This course ushered in a new era with installing. And then it's a lifetime membership into that global community and lifetime access to all the materials. There's audio for everything, and you'll see. So you can also develop a regenerative business or launch a regenerative business if you choose that bonus, which we'll talk about in a second. So you get clarity, direction, peace of mind. It's project based and student centered. It's your projects, your goals, your path. I want you to make it real and then refine it. I don't want you to just learn about it and then get kicked out of my course and then I don't see if you don't do or do. I want you to do it. And I want to honor you for it and have you become a teacher and an exemplar. And so lifetime access, you can keep going, you can keep growing, you can keep contributing, you can, join us for the a new season, this final season. If you're from prior seasons, you can, of course, and join us. And it's accredited, it's peer reviewed, it's standard based, and it's fully cited. It's exclusive too. We got that private social network that's so you get to be part of people who are part of this. And you don't have to do the reading. You can listen. If you're like, I can't read a physical book, that's over with me. Well, you can download the audio for both the courses and the books. So not just the textbook, but also the workbook. And then I got tons of ebooks for you. I got that career guide for you. Permaculture chickens. I got the longevity revolution, Antoinette, right? Talking about seaweed and thalassotherapy. And it's up to 60% off. We've got a scholarship hardship option. I know things are hard right now for a lot of people. We have amazing options with bonuses as well. So both directions. And if you've had any challenges with soil, one of these bonuses is really going to help you. Okay. The Introduction to Regenerative Soil is an incredible course, $250 value, over 30 plus hours of education. It's massive. And, we go over everything. So I hope that you join us in that. It'll be a game changer for you. Soil is the bedrock of permaculture after all. And then after that, check out Regenerative Entrepreneurs and Experts. This is where we put it all together so that you can design a business plan. You can learn my frameworks. You can learn alignment. You can learn my crowdfunding best practices, my marketing, branding, presenting, speaking, all of it. And if you know Amy Lander's Gardens That Matter, her whole YouTube blew up after this. So taking this course gave me the space and encouragement to do much needed bigger picture thinking. And man, has her picture expanded. She's gone big. And so many people got so much out of this. This is also the course that Gavin Gardens took to launch his book. So, so recipes of reciprocity, right? So he was able to launch his book and become an author using the methods in this book, following the actual steps in this. So it's incredibly valuable. It's over 500. I mean, it's a $500 value, but it's worth way more than that. And so you have to learn how I do what I do. I make a living supporting my entire family. My wife doesn't work a job, and we just try to focus on health. So if you want to become a regenerative entrepreneur and launch your next big idea, this is a bonus. It just comes with the course. You don't have to do anything extra. You just sign up for the Advanced Permaculture Student Online, and then you can get all of those courses. You can be doing the introduction to regenerative soil, 30 plus hours, getting well versed in how to do all that stuff. And then you can be launching a business when you want to apply all this stuff to maybe changing your work, maybe changing your business, but also maybe starting something new. So this is an incredible value, and you can get this for less than $50 a month, less than a tank of gas for someone's car. You know, you might have a big truck or a gas guzzler or something like that, and gas is expensive, but this is less than that. This is probably less per month than a lot of people's lattes, right? So this is this is what I took. It changed my life. Doing this work changed my life. And writing those books changed my life. And that's why I teach these things in their life changing. I took the PDC and it changed me, but then I went further and created this advanced PDC. And in writing that book, I was changed. In creating that course, I was changed. And I passed that on to my students through this course. It's incredibly valuable. And it's, 1/10 the cost of most other programs. And it's lifetime access, unlimited value. And it's also easy payment plans. There's a path. There is a way to a better future. So you've waited long enough. I hope that you join us. The Advanced Permaculture Student Online starts Monday. It's the course, the community, the bonuses, the books, the knowledge, the skills, and the results. It's an abundance of food, an abundance of seed, a permaculture site, an abundant community, a regenerative business, an abundant life. So let's unlock it because now is the time. We begin Monday. This is the final season, the final live season with me. I'm going to be focusing on regenerative soil microscopy, and that database because I know it's the linchpin to help everyone else. That is because soil is the foundation for all of permaculture. Soil is the foundation for all regenerative ag. Soil is the foundation for all of our health because healthy soils they beget healthy plants, which beget healthy people and animals. So they foster, they facilitate, they feed, they grow. And so this is the final season. I want to pass this on to everyone. I want everyone to join us to have that permaculture lens. But it's going to be automated, and there's going to be 8 years of live Q&A to reference. So it'll be in good hands, and I'll still answer questions in the comments. So you'll still have access to answers from me, but it will be a little bit different. If you want to ask me questions on a week by week basis, join with me live this season. It's the last time for this course. Join with us. Sign up soon. We start Monday. Click the link and sign up soon. I'll put that link now in the comments below. I'm Matt Powers. Grow abundantly, learn daily, and live regeneratively. And I hope to see you in the course on Monday. Thank you for being here. Woo! All right. Here we go. So it quite simply is Advanced Permaculture Student.com. Sweet, Josh. Josh says, signed up, got my book ready to go. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, advancedpermaculturestudent.com. And that'll turn into my Kajabi site. It's a lead link. I I have my level of sophistication with everything, and I just created a lot of lead links, and I never fully created the websites. I just have it all shift to my home site on Kajabi. I appreciate you guys so much being here. What questions do you guys have? Thank you for being here and making the time. Kathleen says soil is so amazing. It's an entire little world all on its own. It is. And this course, Advanced Permaculture Student Online, has an incredible introduction to it. And on top of that, if you sign up for it, there's the introduction to regenerative soil. That so you get schooled in that whole book, you get schooled in that whole way of thinking. So check that out. It's a game changer. AdvancedPermacultureStudent.com. I'd love a side by side of my wild area with my cultivated area and my project area. Let's do it, Helen. I love it. Scarecrow says the regenerative soil book is a total game changer. Thank you so much, Matt. Big, big love. Oh, thank you so much. Wow. Thank you for being here. What if I do not currently have land to install a permaculture site? Many students do hypotheticals. So they'll do their hypothetical design for a site and they can get their PDC certification that way. And then they've got that map, they've got that skill, then they offer it to someone else and they design for that person because they're now able to design. And then they submit that design and the results from it for their project. So a lot of people then start doing service while they're finishing the course in order to finish the course. So then they just redesign their whole neighbor or another person in a neighborhood or a client. And it's that design and that project that becomes their advanced permaculture certification. They also might design a curriculum. They might design a business or a service that is also regenerative and permacultural. And I really support being creative. I don't know if you guys noticed, I really support being creative with permaculture as a concept and mindset so that we apply it to more than our gardens. And I love that we apply it to our gardens, our food forests, our home sites, but it is a lens that can change everything. And just like I applied it to my business strategy, you can apply it to strategy too, in interaction and service and see incredible things happen. It's really about that alignment with our ethics. Thank you for being here. Will your course and online community be available in the future, just not live with you? Oh, yeah, yeah. It's all lifetime access. And all the communities are under one bundle. So it's like regardless of whether like that course is live any longer, it'll still be there. I pay one price for Circle. So all the social sides of it I always retain, and I always leave intact. And that is the power of social learning. It's that communing in a group, that sharing in a group, that giving feedback, support, and deeper insight maybe, or a reminder or question. That gentle help from others is so underrated because most of the time on permaculture, Instagram or YouTube, all you get is crap posting is a nice way to put it, I guess. People are just being jerks. They're just being jerks. And so we're really burnt out as a community on that. People in permaculture on Facebook are totally burnt out on it. They're done. That's why those permaculture groups are often very, very quiet because everyone's kind of burnt out. They're like, I'm just going to get crap posted on if I post anything. But in these communities, it's the opposite. It's the actual feedback that they actually value and find valuable. And so it's a very, very important thing, I think, to have that community aspect and social learning. If your community is good, right? So obviously, Facebook and Instagram is not teaching anyone anything with their crap posting, right? But that's the thing is community and environment. We're gathered for those ethical reasons. So Spencer says, can you go over the difference between the bonuses? So you can pay full price and you can get all these incredible bonuses that it's over $800 more in bonuses if you pay full price. So you're getting incredible value, or you don't get bonuses and it's just digital and you can pay $50 a month and it's scholarship and hardship program. And that's designed to reward people that want to pay full price, and then people who can only they pay a certain amount, they can get in. So that's the way it's always been too. It's been that way for many, many years. And so I know how valuable it is to people to be able to just get in. And then I also know how valuable it is to people to get that package of courses because they're launching businesses and then suddenly they're not working a day job. I'm like, all right, people buying land. Yeah. So I really value the power of those bonuses. And then what advice would you have to give somebody studying soil microscopy? What do you wish someone had told you earlier into this journey? Well, the things that exist now because of my program and book didn't exist. That's why I created it. I mean, just a simple thing where it's like, I want to see the same piece of fungi at 40x, 100x, and 400x, and then 600x. Didn't exist anywhere. And so to be able to look at someone else's like picture and be like, oh, that's where we are. We're at 40x. Oh, that's where we are. We're at 400x. And just knowing that, I wasn't able to develop that because not just the basic textbooks on any of these things would never show that. And that basic grounding comprehension, be able to know what magnification you're at and relative to the size of the thing you're looking at, was so bonehead basic to me that I had to do it. I was like, oh God, and build it. And so I would just start, Sue, by checking out my book and course because a month from now we're starting a new season. And yeah, you can check out the book in the meantime and see the quality of what I offer and why, we have hundreds of graduates and certified labs from Soil Food Web community. We have so many people taking this course that are teaching at university level, running professional labs, running commercial composting systems and biofertilizer breweries. And so, yeah, I really, really value it because I've been able to unlock so much for so many people with that. So check that out. Go to regenerativesoilmicroscopy.com. And again, that's a lead link. So just type in regenerativesoilmicroscopy.com and it'll take you to a Kajabi page. Like I said, all my courses are on Kajabi. I host everything on there. It's like my all-in-one space. If you ever want like an in for that, let me know and I'll send you a special link and stuff. And you'll only have to pay like $69 a month and you can start. Will your course, okay. So next year it won't be possible to get certified? No, no, Andy. The live portion of me answering questions live, and the certification part again you could take 2 years and send it to me in 2 years, and I would still honor that and answer your certification, give you feedback, and give you advice on how to improve it. The number one thing I didn't like about certifications I would get online is they would just give you the certification and say, congratulations, ah, da, da. And you're like, this is copy and pasted, ain't it? I hate that. And so I always try to give a very precise response and also to that person. So that I show I'm present with them. I'm actually reading it. And not only that, I can help them improve and help honor them precisely for the thing they're doing right in relation to the course content. Because A, that's what the whole point of it is. It's proof of learning, right? It's proof that you took the course. And then B, me showing that I see that you were paying attention and you did that thing because you saw it there and then you applied it in a novel way, accurately and appropriately, like rewards and honors the other person and they receive it properly. Again, it's that whole thing with the psychology. So, so I'm always going to honor that. I mean, if 10 years from now I get certifications, I'm gonna be happy about that. And it's all gonna be set up uh, like without the live. So it'll be a self-paced course for certification. So people will be able to take it and then they'll be able to get their certification still. So that's never gonna go away. If you don't sign up now, will it be available next year minus the live portion? Yes, it'll be available next year. Are each of your courses still available online? Regenerative soil microscopy is. There are certain things that are no longer available, but they're older courses. I had a mashup version of permaculture gardening and permaculture K through 12 without the food. So K through 12 is a seed to table program. So children learn to save seed, grow from seed, harvest plants, and cook food with them, and then harvest seeds and cook food with them. So they learn the full cycle and life cycle and how to apply it and think about it in a permaculture way. I removed the seed saving and food portion of that and supplied permaculture gardening and made an adult version. Well, sounds terrible, adult version. Oh my gosh. But I made a version of Permaculture Student Online, the K through 12 for adult learners, right? But I stopped that, like, because it wasn't very popular, like 5 years ago. And that's part of me realizing that all the adults were just taking the K through 12, and which was weird to me at first until I realized what that strength of mine was. And realizing that was part of writing this. And that's why you see these simplified pictures of the cycles, because it's idealized. They're not really simplified. They have all the complexity of all the different parts, but they're cartoons, and that really allowed that comprehension to happen. And so I'm still doing the same thing. Thank you. Thank you so much. Is there another level further than old growth forest that we haven't experienced yet because we haven't had old growth forest long enough for it to prepare for soil for the next stage in succession? What a great question, James. And the answer is, in a way, yes. So the canopies used to be hundreds of feet taller. So there was multiple canopies, and we had longer lived and taller trees. And obviously we've also had ice ages when the world was like in a hunkering down time period. But in time periods of great growth, we had climax canopies that were hundreds of feet taller than now, and so there were multiple trophic levels in the canopies and tons of containment. So all the CO2 release from the fungi in those soils never left those forests. So they were absorbed, and we know this. This is well documented that the CO2 release from fungi gets absorbed by the leaves above it, right? And so it stays in cycling. And yeah, they're exhaling above that, and then the plant above it captures that, and then right, because respiration. So so it really locked in these things, and so we had a completely different behavior in those time periods, right? The CO2 never reached the ice cores or anything like that. It was hyper efficient, hyper efficient. So I find all of that really fascinating, and studying the history of fungi, studying the history of plants. That's been a big part of the mycorrhizal fungi work I've been doing, because understanding like mycorrhizal fungi has always been there. There's never been like, oh, there's plants and no fungi, and then oh, here comes fungi. No, no, no. Fungi has been there the whole time, and in fact, the first plants are arguably fungi, not plants. So it's pretty wild. But the first plants look like giant cordyceps. And then you have these like giant mushrooms that are like pillars, and then you have these slightly branching ones, and then you have things that start looking like coniferous trees. So that's the I love the record. I love the archaeological study. Of course, it's always changing. We're always finding new things. That's part of the reason why it's so entertaining and interesting. But that greater context is powerful. I really hope that you guys check out the program. It's Advanced Permaculture Student.com. I feel fungi are more like animals. Well, they exhale CO2 like animals, don't they? But they are unique. They're triggering secession. They're controlling so many things. I mean, if our fungi inside of our gut didn't exist, we wouldn't live. If and same thing with all the other animals, and then the plants have it endophytically too. So it's everywhere and key to everything it's in. So fungi is amazing, and that's why we've got a whole chapter on fungi. And William Padilla Brown is joining us live to teach us the Fungi Week. So you'll be able to ask William Padilla Brown live Q&A questions for the Fungi Week, which is incredible this year. So I hope that you guys join us. It's going to be amazing. Permaculture changed my life. Permaculture gave me the lens to be able to change my life in the way that served me at the highest level, in the way that I got to serve and pay it forward at the highest level. That book, the purple book that's been the free ebook, 6 months after I published it, I gave that ebook away for free. So starting in 2018, I've been giving away, or no, 2017, I've been giving away that ebook free, and it's over 30,000 people have downloaded it. So it's gone out into the world. It's helped so many people, and it's my pleasure. I'm so excited about it. But it is applying it. It's understanding it. It's taking it to that next level, personalizing it. That makes it possible for you to get that higher level expression out, that mindset adoption, that identity. I'm so excited to delve into this with you. It's a 20, well, it's a 20-week course, but then week 24, we meet back up and we talk about our advanced projects and plans. So I hope that you join us. It's an incredible community, and it's the last time we will be doing it live. It's going to be all automated from here on out. So if you would like to join us for this, click the link, advancedpermaculturestudent.com, and join us. I'm Matt Powers. Grow abundantly, learn daily, and live regeneratively. And we're going to do a giveaway. All right. So we got a few of these dinged books here that need love. So I'm going to be giving away this book, Regenerative Soil. What's one new thing that you learned today? Something new that you learned today. You can share it in the comments, and one of you is going to win this book. Kathleen said that's a great book. Thanks, Kathleen. Helen says the chicken mobile heat regulating design. I love it. Tina says documentation needs. Mary says crazy wild dogs in Texas. Yeah, there. I mean, we've lived in so many places. We've dealt with wild animals before, but man, these things are unfazed. The possibilities of what you can do with sandy soil and the growth you can have, says Patrice. Thanks, Patrice. Sue says that someone is finally going to develop the database we need to show the changes over time. Thank you, Sue. Sue, I want to send you this. I want to send you this book. All right. Email me at mattpowersoil@gmail.com and I will send you that book. The fencing differences in Texas and growth differences, says Anina. Tomatoes. I love it. I love it. And Anina, I want to send you the same book. So email me at Matt Powers. I got a few others. Um, uh, Email me at mattpowersoil@gmail.com and I'm going to send you a copy. All right. And again, celebrating, families, celebrating, the progression of things. If you know a family that's homeschooling that could benefit from the K through 12 program, I see a face nodding. Message me. No, no, no. In the chat, share. Just let me know. I'm gonna pick someone and we'll give it to them. I know it's not a hard question. Do you know a family that could benefit from the K through 12 homeschooling program? I have a dear friend doing homeschooling, says Patrice. Yeah. Helen says the Museum of the Children in Guatemala. Is that what museo means? Museum? Okay, interesting. Shannon says, first time I've been on live with you. I can now feel how much you care and we homeschool. Oh, Shannon, you homeschool. Let me share this with you. Thank you for being here, Shannon. So message me at mattpowerssoil@gmail.com and I will share that course with you. And like I said, it's a seed to table design system so kids incorporate it at a deep, deep level. They see the whole life cycle of the plant. They see how it goes into a seed and they can save it or they can use it as food while the right time to harvest. All these deeper lessons are implied. It's so useful for kids. Uh, I've seen it with my own kids because I raised them in the garden. I raised them seed saving. I raised them in this context. There's a reasoning and logic that they get because literally nature does what it does, you know? You can't like be like, well, I'm gonna, you know, put these seeds in Coca-Cola and then plant them. It's like, no, no, not like we had Coca-Cola growing up, but yeah, you gotta follow nature. You gotta do water, maybe a little bit of EM, mycorrhizal fungi. You gotta follow nature. And so those deep lessons about respecting the patterns of nature because they work. Ooh, I love it. I love it. Well, I appreciate you all. I'm excited to send these goodies, excited to send that course to you. And in fact, I saw Patrice said that she has a family. Patrice messaged me as well. And I'll give it to that family as well. So 2 books, 2 courses. Thank you for being here. And I invite you all to the Advanced Permaculture Student Online. I hope that you join us. It's an incredible resource. There's no other course like it, and it's been just an incredible, incredible process. And it's so much fun this year doing the finale. We're gonna have William Padilla Brown, one of my best friends. I don't know if you guys ever listened to Regenerative Future. He's been on my podcast more than anyone else. So William is just a great friend, and he's someone I'm always talking to, always texting. So it'll be just so much fun to have him join us and to have it be live so you can get those questions answered. All right. Thank you for being part of this community. What days and time are the Q&A and live sessions? They are Saturdays or Sundays, and every once in a while, Mondays if I'm like out of town or something's happening on that weekend, family wise or something like that. So I rotate it. I've got the schedule. If you want the schedule, just email me at mattpowerssoil@gmail.com and I'll literally give you the schedule for this year. So you can see that and you can add to your calendar. You can do all that. I'm so excited for you to join us. Enjoy those gifts, and I will see you all soon. I hope that you all join, and I see you Monday. I'm Matt Powers. Grow abundantly, learn daily, and live regeneratively. And I will see you all soon. Thank you all. You're unmuted.
Thank you, Matt. See you
Yeah.
Monday.
So
Thanks.
Have a great one, everyone.